أهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا مع ليلى الحسيني في بث حي ومباشر عبر WNZK راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning Michigan with Layla Al-Husseini. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues with your host, Layla Al-Husseini.
On the third Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be discussing some of the most important current political, economic, and social issues in my program, The Bridge. On Radio Baladi, on America's Voice of the Arab, WNZK 690 AM, and WZMV 700 AM.
Everybody, this is your host, Dr. Sahar Khamis, Associate Professor in the Department of Communication at the University of Maryland, College Park, and an expert on Arab and Muslim media. Today we are discussing an important and timely topic, working and praying for Middle East peace, diverse voices, and new initiatives. As the struggle to put an end to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict continues over several decades, many parties on both sides of this conflict have given up hope on reaching a just, fair, and equitable solution to one of the world's longest ongoing political conflicts amid grim news about escalating violence, continuing bloodshed, and failed negotiations. This despair, which has been fueled by mediated images of war, conflict, and human suffering through mainstream media, raised a lot of skepticism about the possibility of reaching an equitable and acceptable resolution to this tenacious conflict. Yet some groups, organizations, and individuals continue to believe strongly in the possibility of reaching a peaceful resolution for the Middle East conflict and continue to both work and pray for Middle East peace. With me this morning discussing this important and timely topic are two distinguished guests, Dr. Sherwood McGinnis and Mr. Joel Siegel. Dr. Sherwood McGinnis is a retired career member of the U.S. Senior Foreign Service with over 30 years experience with international political, security, economic, and reconstruction and stability issues. Before moving to Jordan in September 2013, Dr. McGinnis was a professor of international relations, teaching national security and foreign policy, multilateral diplomacy, and regional study courses at the U.S. Army War College. He has recently returned to the U.S. and is currently an adjunct professor both at the U.S. AWC and Dickinson College. During his career, he served in Afghanistan as political advisor to the Commander, International Security Assistance Force, ISAF, and in Mexico and Western and Eastern Europe, he has worked closely with multilateral organizations, including NATO, the UN, and the Conference on Disarmament, CD, where he was the acting U.S. representative from 2011 from 2001 till 2004. He was also a member of the U.S. delegation to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, Preparatory Review Conference in 2003. He is a board member of the Holy Land Peace Fellowship Foundation. Dr. McGinnis earned his PhD in International Studies from the American University and his BA and MA in History from the University of Virginia. He is fluent in French and Spanish and also is currently studying Arabic. My second distinguished guest this morning is Mr. Joel Siegel, who is a long-time organizer, activist, and scholar. He served as senior legislative aide to Congressman Jean Connier for 13 years, and he helped found and lead movements to reform health care, provide relief to AIDS victims in Africa, as well as reach peace in the Middle East. Mr. Mr. Joe Siegel is the director and founder of the Middle East Peace Working Group, which is a grassroots movement bringing together interfaith leaders, religious clerics, academics, professionals, and activists who work collectively to put an end to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict in a fair and equitable way. Mr. Joe Siegel is also the founder of the Free China movement in the United States that comprises over 30 Chinese democracy organizations inside and outside of China working for peace and democracy. Welcome to the show, my distinguished guest this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for joining my program. And I would like to start with you, Dr. Sherwood, and I'll ask the same question of Mr. Siegel afterwards. As I said in the introduction to the show, that there has been a lot of negative news coming out of the region, really, and a lot of people are losing even hope in reaching some kind of fair and balanced and equitable solution to the long-time Palestinian-Israeli conflict. What would you say to some of these skeptics who are, basically saying there is no solution, there is no hope ahead of us?
So I would say that there has to remain hope. There are a lot of individuals that have found a life for themselves. They're in Palestine. One of the important and I think positive elements is that you have not seen the rise of the Islamic State, ISIL, there in either Jordan nor the West Bank, and that is a positive element. However, I would agree that there has to be more movement. The issue for me, most important, is to get the parties, the Palestinian Authority and the Israelis, back to the table to talk about these issues. And I note that Secretary of State Kerry is going out to the region in the next few days to try to rebuild a dialogue.
Excellent. And Mr. Joe Siegel, if you were to address the very same concern about losing hope and being too skeptical about even the possibility of reaching a resolution, what would you comment about this issue?
Dr. Khamis, first of all, it's an honor to be with you. You're one of the shining lights of the world and one of the shining lights of peace in the Middle East, and my dear friend, who I miss you so much since I've moved from Washington, D.C., but I also want to say hello to my friends in Dearborn. I worked for Congressman Connors for 13 years, and Dearborn was always my favorite place to visit with the congressman because they had an Arab pastry shop. I can't remember the name of it, but I think I gained about 15 pounds every time I went there because it was so good. And all the love and all my friends that were in Dearborn, especially the Palestinians who introduced me to Palestinian music. It's an honor to be with Dr. McGinnis, and also because he knows what he's talking about. The reason why I always believe in hope, because I think that, I remember Jesse Jackson, he used to say, keep hope alive. And Martin King said the arc of the universe bends towards justice. And I've always been an optimist when it comes to peace. It's an imperative because we're talking about the future generations of children who often are the ones who die in conflicts, and they're dying right now. Now you got 15-year-old kids who, are taking knives and or screwdrivers and becoming violent. And I just believe it's the occupation. I think the occupation of the Palestinian people has gone on for decades. It has to end. Israel will never be secure until Israel signs a land for peace agreement with the Palestinians and then a regional peace agreement with its Arab neighbors, similar to the contours of the Arab Peace Initiative, maybe the Clinton parameters and the Omar Abbas talks. The G8 countries have to be involved. There has to be regional cooperation, and that's not going to happen, in my opinion, until the United Nations and just as Dr. McGinnis was saying, President Obama are going to have to come in there strong and demand a land for peace agreement, but that won't happen until the civil society comes together and puts pressure on our elected officials to do so. That's what the Middle East Peace Working Group is all about, is a civil society movement that is 100% committed to peace. We are Arabs, we're Palestinians, we're Jews, we're Christians, we're African Americans, we're Israelis, we're Arabs. We're proof that it can be done. We're proof that people can come together, because we know that there are so many benefits to a 2 or 3 state solution, whether it's economic growth on the Palestinian side, more security for Israel, more tourism for Israel, less expenditures on the military, stabilizing the region in general, and you can never give up on peace. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen.
I just want to pick up on one important point that you mentioned about civil society. And I think the very importance of really motivating and activating a base of popular support for peace that comes from the grassroots. I mean, we can talk all we want about what politicians and officials in power should be doing and are not sufficiently doing, but what about the grassroots movement? Dr. Sherwood, if you would to comment on this particular point about the importance of really motivating and involving a wider base of grassroots support for the peace movement.
Well, I agree with you completely. And also, Joe Siegel said the same thing, that you have to have that sense from the people, those that are on the ground, that are living this day in and day out. There are a number of efforts in civil society, from their support throughout the region to develop the capacity of civil society to make their voice heard. This is an issue that needs leadership at the top, as we have talked about, but also the grassroots. If you cannot have that support from the people, no matter what someone, whether it's the United Nations, whether it's the European Community, the United States, tries to impose, it has to be a feeling inside the hearts of those who live in the region. So all that can be done to bring the various elements of civil society across religion, across ethnicity, to try to say we share a common goal. And that goal is to have peace, stability, security, a good life for ourselves and our children. And if we can shift the emphasis to that, which is to make a future with hope for the people that live in the region, I think we have a good success, as Joel Siegel has said, to move forward. I, too, am an optimist. I think there is a good opportunity here, but it's going to take both leadership at the top and involvement by civil society.
I totally agree. I think that both are much needed. The top leadership has to be more actively involved, and you need to have a more broad-based grassroots movement across the board to support the peace movement on both sides. We'll come back to this important discussion right after this commercial break. Stay, please.
Jumana K-Ruz. You've seen her images on giant billboards across the metro. Jumana K-Ruz. You've seen her images on buses across the city. Now get to know Jumana K-Ruz.
Most people who sit in my office across from my desk are hurting on so many levels. One thing people do not know about medical malpractice is that the statute of limitation, meaning the time that you have to bring suit against a doctor, a hospital, is 2 years. In medical malpractice, that's a very, very short period of time. Not every lawyer is an advocate, but every lawyer should be an advocate.
Let Jumana K-Ruz protect your rights. Call the law offices of Jumana K-Ruz at 1-866-YOUR-RIGHTS, extension 100, or visit yourrights.com.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
From their first words to first grade, Dreamy Children's Center will help get your child on the right track. The highly qualified staff works closely with parents to provide an experience that goes beyond early education. We can help nurture important personality traits with the use of educational programs ranging from preschooling for infants to Montessori-approved programs and bilingual curriculums for young children. All meals can be provided and we can arrange for after-school pickup. Dreamy Children's Center in Dearborn Heights on Warren, in Westland on Ann Arbor Trail, and in Troy on DeQuinder.
This is Dr. Sahar Khamis. Join me on the third Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be discussing some of the most important current political, economic, and social issues in my program, The Bridge. On Radio Baladi, on America's Voice of the Arab, WNZK 690 AM and WZMZ 700 AM.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is your host, Dr. Sahar Khamis. We are discussing today working and praying for Middle East peace, diverse voices, and new initiatives. And with me today discussing this important topic are two distinguished guests who have been working in the area of Middle East peace, Dr. Sherwood McGinnis and Mr. Joel Siegel. Dr. Sherwood, before going to the commercial break, you were talking about the importance of grassroots movements, and I know that you are the board member of the Holy Land Peace Fellowship Foundation. Can you please give us an idea about this particular movement and what it aims to reach?
Yes, the Holy Land Peace Fellowship Foundation was established to promote and build the culture of a lasting peace through fellowship and public service. Last year, we had an initial meeting in the fall of 2014 to bring leaders from around the world, across religions, across groups, to come together, to meet one another, and to pray for peace. Prayer is very important. All of the religions look to their God to communicate, to say what they need. And we believe that a strong, prayerful call for peace can make a difference. And so by bringing representatives from around the world to sit, to listen, to discuss, and to pray is very, very important. I know that Mr. Siegel has been involved much longer with this, and I would turn to him to get his additional comments.
Right, and Mr. Joel Siegel, you are also the founder and the national director of the Middle East Peace Working Group. If you can also give us a synopsis, an idea about this particular group and what it's trying to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, what Dr. Sherwood beautifully laid out is it's so needed, first of all, to have prayer and to have people from all backgrounds to come together for peace. That's where it starts. And if you don't have a faith component to any movement, I've been working in movements, whether it was universal health care, AIDS in Africa, now I'm working on climate change and climate justice. If you don't have a spiritual foundation, you probably will not succeed in what you're trying to do. What the Middle East Peace Working Group was founded by myself, Harriet Fulbright, who's the wife of the late Senator Fulbright from Arkansas, Jewish leaders, faith leaders who are Christian, Muslim, rabbis, imams, and we decided there needed to be a political arm of the two-state solution movement, because when I was working in Congress, I did not really see enough support for a two-state solution. J Street, which is a Jewish organization that's very pro-Israel but very pro-peace, and quite pro-Palestinian nationalism as well. Then there was the American Task Force on Palestine. But what I saw were very siloed organizations that didn't know each other and weren't really working together, but had great leadership, great people, and we felt there was a need to bring people together to lobby President Obama and the State Department and Congress to expedite negotiations that had been stalled at the time. And I'm so proud to have you on our board, Dr. Khamis. And what we're trying to do is the same thing. We are trying to build the largest, most diverse peace movement so that the Israelis and the Palestinians can sign an agreement. Then there could be a much larger, regional peace agreement. But when you have Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, he has shown pretty clearly that he has not been a proponent of negotiations. The Palestinians have, under Abbas's leadership, President Abbas, has said as a precondition to talks, quit building new settlements. And I met with the ambassador of Israel recently, who was in the southern region, and I asked him, why not just stop building those settlements so there could be a peace agreement? And he, in earnest, said, well, where are we going to put the people who are coming to Israel from other countries? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, you can do what they do in New York or where I live in Charlotte, build up, build apartments and build them up into the sky, or in the settlement blocks that exist, just build there. But, the Palestinians under Abbas's leadership have shown over and over again they are serious about peace, but I do want to discuss what I think is a profound misunderstanding of the Palestinian people, both in Israel and of Muslims, both in the American Jewish community and Israel, which is a very serious impediment to moving forward in peace talks, and then also talk about the hardliners among Hamas and Hezbollah and other forces in the Arab world that are not helping the peace process. But I hope I explain what we're trying to do.
The importance here is really amplifying the moderate voices on both sides, those who are seeking a solution, right, so that these could be heard louder and wider than they are right now, amplifying these voices of peace from both sides of the conflict.
As you once said so brilliantly, we're whispering. And, one thing I've learned after 30 years of organizing morally based social justice movements, God-centered movements. Mm-hmm. If you don't get into the media, you don't exist. So we have to begin thinking and strategizing, get out of our silos. Those of us who were for peace in the Middle East, get out of our silos. Do what Congressman Connors and Martin King and civil rights leaders used to do. Do a strategic assessment of how the peace movement can do a better job of lobbying elected officials, and we haven't been doing that. But this event that we're having at the University of Maryland, where you'll be speaking, Dr. Khamis, and Dr. Sherwood is very much involved in, is the beginning of a process. It's a very important prayer service to begin that, regular meetings and dialoguing about what are we going to do as a civil society to move peace forward before there's a full-blown third intifada, and we're getting close to that. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning the event at the University of Maryland. It is called A Day of Prayers for Peace in the Middle East, and it will take place this Sunday, October 18th at 3 p.m. in the Memorial Chapel at the University of Maryland. And Dr. Sherwood, as one of the board members of the Holy Land Peace Fellowship Foundation, which is putting together and organizing this important day of prayers, can you please give us an idea about this important day and what it's supposed to mean and what it's supposed to achieve?
As Joel Siegel has said, and as you have pointed out, we are gathering together this is a special day. We are bringing people from the Washington, D.C. area, but from around the country and also from overseas. The program will include remarks by a number of individuals from the Muslim community, from the Jewish community, from the Christian community, to talk about the elements of peace, how we can move forward. And the foundation itself is based on principles of family, of religion, of public service. This event is what I hope to be a spark that will grow. And this will not be a single event. There will be other follow-on events that will allow people in civil society to discuss the issues and then go out and talk in their communities, talk to their governmental officials, talk to people that can make a difference, those that are in authority, but also those that live in their neighborhoods and their communities. The sense of getting the message across, the importance of peace for a good life, for people that live in the community, importance of peace for stability, for security, and that, as we have, as Joel Siegel said earlier, we have a, what do I want to call it, a sore that has been sitting in the Holy Land for decades. And this is something that we have to address. We have to try to find a way that those people that live in the region can live together. And I think that's possible. Having spent 2 years in Jordan, there is a diverse society there. And one of the things that the leadership in Jordan, from the king to Prince Hassan and others, look for in terms of a value is that of tolerance, to understand who and what live in the community, what they believe in, what they feel, and by understanding that and talking about it, we can, I believe, move toward a peaceful solution. But that is very important. And so this event will, I hope, be a very large spark that will move us down the road to peace.
Absolutely, and I hope and pray the same way as well. And I think the importance of, including the element of spirituality and prayers is a very important dimension, as well as the dimension of working across the grassroots and getting more people from every side involved actively in praying, working, participating, and amplifying the voices of peace. We will come back to this interesting discussion right after this commercial break. Stay tuned, please.
Life for Relief and Development is a nonprofit charity that has been providing humanitarian aid and development to people and communities regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background for over 22 years. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life rushes to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Life also has development projects that provide medical relief, water purification, educational programs, relief for orphans, and much more. Your help and support can greatly improve these efforts. All donations are tax-deductible. For more information, please visit our website at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. That's lifeusa.org, 248-424-7493.
Are you going to start a restaurant or grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Najee Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Najee Abood now. 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Najee Abood, 734-744-9796.
This is Dr. Sahar Khamis. Join me on the third Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be discussing some of the most important current political, economic, and social issues in my program, The Bridge. On Radio Baladi, on America's Voice of the Arab, WNZK 690 AM and WZMV 700 AM.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is your host, Dr. Sahar Khamis. We are discussing today working and praying together for peace, diverse voices, and new initiatives. And with me this morning discussing this important topic are two distinguished guests who have been working in the area of Middle East peace, Dr. Sherwood McGuinness and Mr. Joel Siegel. Mr. Siegel, before going to the commercial break, Dr. Sherwood talked about the role of media. You also mentioned the role of media, that the fact that mainstream media maybe has not been doing enough to push forward the cause of peace and peaceful resolution. And we have a saying in media, when it bleeds, it leads. Unfortunately, whenever there's conflict and bloodshed and violence, the cameras are rolling and, it's all over the news. And it adds to this atmosphere of, despair and gloominess that really kind of overshadows the whole process, as I mentioned in the introduction. What do you think should be done in order to get the voices of peace in the media and possibly even to look at the possibility of using alternative media?
That's a great question. I've worked on issues that were difficult issues to get media attention. Or when I was in Congress, I was the lead staffer on universal health care and global HIV/AIDS and Katrina. And what I learned, I worked in law as a law student at UNC Chapel Hill. I worked with the African National Congress on divestments from South Africa, and I think there's a science to this, and the science is the press wants to see a serious, powerful movement with a lot of different people, but they tend to gravitate towards celebrities and dignitaries. When we were stuck in Congress on global AIDS, I had discussions with Bono, the superstar, the lead singer of the group U2, and I asked Bono's representative to, please work with the Congressional Black Caucus on global AIDS. And after the third discussion, Bono said yes. And Bono, once he was recruited, took an issue that was off the radar screen. Millions of people could have died of global HIV/AIDS. And we were able to pass PEPFAR, which was President Bush's signature program, $15 billion a year and HIV/AIDS drugs, treatment, prevention to Africa, and then the global fund program for TB, AIDS, and malaria, because the media loved him. Within 2 months, he was with Treasury Secretary O'Neill traveling Africa. I brought in a lot of other dignitaries and celebrities and artists, and that really helped. With universal health care, I approached filmmaker Michael Moore, and I talked to his staff, and I said, we're not moving forward on universal health care in the Congress. We got 45 million people uninsured. We have 40,000 people who will die this year because we don't have health insurance in this country for everybody like they do in Europe and every industrialized country in the world. Can you do a movie? This is the first time I've ever talked about this. Can you do a movie that highlights the uninsured in this country, what their struggles are, what their hardships are, and then go to Europe and interview them, those who have health care? And to my great surprise, Sicko, which was probably one of the best-selling documentaries ever, was made, and it did exactly what I had hoped would happen. And that movie was able to sensitize the Congress to the plight of the uninsured, which helped with passage of what's now called the Affordable Care Act. And when we meet at the University of Maryland on Sunday from 3 to 5 at the chapel there, these are the kind of discussions that we must have. We work with Peter Yarrow. We did a concert, Dr. Khamis, with right in front of the White House with, Peter Yarrow, Peter, Paul, and Mary. There's tons of celebrities that we can bring in, but you first have to bring in as many groups as you can from all backgrounds. Do more press conferences. Go on CNN. We have to raise money. We have to hire a public relations firm. Then once we get into the media, print, radio, social media, as you've suggested, we have to dominate. We have to dominate the media message that peace is possible. The majority of Palestinians want it. The majority of students in Palestine want it. 70% of the Jewish community wants a two-state solution. 70% of the Israelis want a two-state solution. The majority of the world wants a two-state solution. It's just that we're disjointed. We have not united under one umbrella to figure this out, how we're going to be amplified. But we have to do this to avert a third intifada and to stop global terrorism. I mean, we got to do this. This 80-year tragic conflict between two people who share the same culture. One culture says salam, the other says shalom. We eat the same food. I have so many Palestinian and Arab friends, probably more than I do Jewish friends. They all want peace. They just want an end to the occupation. Palestinians want a homeland, just as we Jews wanted a homeland. The Israelis want security. It could be done easily. It could be done tomorrow. Go ahead.
I think the most important thing is really connecting all of these different efforts, right? The spiritual component, the diplomatic effort, the grassroots effort, getting the voices out in the media. There's a lot of networking and a lot of connecting the dots that needs to be done. And Dr. Shoaib here, I would like to really talk about the new media or the alternative media. Young people, I personally have a lot of faith in grassroots activism, which is exactly what both of you are doing. And in addition also to a lot of faith in new media and social media and getting young people on board with these movements to amplify these messages. Would you like to comment on this particular angle?
Yes, thank you. Let me just comment for a quick second on what Mr. Joel had said earlier. I think the more the message is put forward, the more it is going to stick, and it's going to have an impact on not only the individuals who try to push this message of peace, but also on decision makers. I think we have two key issues here that have been very difficult over at least the last 2 decades in reaching or trying to achieve a solution, trying to come together. And one is a lack of trust between the parties that have been involved. And we've seen that in the 1990s. We've seen it in the first decade of the 21st century, and we're seeing it again. We've got that we have to get beyond. And that takes leadership, I believe, in both from the Israelis, from Netanyahu, from Mr. Abbas and the Palestinians. But they have to have support from the international community to push that message, because it's going to be very difficult to convince members of their societies to do this. They have to show the leadership, but they have to show that they have support. And here is sometimes we waver a little bit there, and I think that we have to strengthen those leaders. And then secondly, from the grassroots, that is going to be very important. It does take money. It takes resources to get messages out, to get airtime, to put together events that the media are going to attend and be able then to pass on the message. And I think one thing that we can achieve this Sunday is that all that attend our prayer session, that meeting from 3 to 5 at the University of Maryland Chapel, is that they go back to their community and they push that. And if you build and build and build, you can have a movement that can send the message forward, both nationally and internationally. And I think that's going to be extremely important. And to get young people involved. There's a generation there that of young people that are going to be the foundation, and they have to have a real feel that peace is important, and there has to be that fellowship, that sense of service, that sense of a larger ideal that drives their lives. And I think that's very important. And that brings us back to the community, the importance of the community instilling these values in the young people of our society.
I think it's very important to have a snowballing effect. I like the fact that you said this important day of prayer is going to be held at the University of Maryland Chapel this Sunday at 3 p.m., which I'm very honored and pleased to be participating in alongside both of you and other distinguished guests and speakers, including sports veteran Sanford Brown, who is the founder of the Holy Land Fellowship Foundation, and other distinguished guests. I think the importance of having a snowballing effect, those who attend and participate in the event should amplify these voices and bring them to the community and bring more people on board. Mr. Joe Siegel, in a few minutes before we go back to our commercial break again, I would like you to focus on the role of art and music. One thing that I did not say about you in the introduction is that you are a talented musician.
Thank you.
And the role of art, how can we possibly use not just new media and social media, but even art, music, other forms of entertainment in order to push forward the cause of peace in the Middle East?
That's a great question. Music is something. I'm a bass player and trained in jazz and classical, but I play popular music. I play a lot of rhythm and blues, funk, and one thing I've noticed is whenever I perform or I'm at concerts, there is a feeling of unity and connectedness and love that you can't really replicate when someone makes a speech on a lectern, although those are very important too. Peter Yarrow, who we work with very closely, of Peter, Paul, and Mary, he's been trying to do a concert in Israel for a long time, and I think in Jerusalem and the West Bank, and it's tough for him to get a permit to do that, but if we could get more musicians, actors, artists to work, in coalition with a group that has a name, that has funding, that's got media visibility, it can just make a profound difference. I remember when the late Robin Williams and Billy Crystal and Whoopi Goldberg did a whole concert on the homeless. And that was significant because it shined a big flashlight on the tragedy of homelessness in this country. I remember Live Aid that Bob Geldof did, the artist from, I believe, Ireland, dealing with the crisis in Africa when there was war and famine and how much money was raised. We Are the World, Michael Jackson, Quincy Jones. I did a very similar project with Bono and on AIDS in Africa. But there's so many Israeli musicians and Arab musicians who are already, doing concerts. Again, the problem is the lack of funding often. But yes, one thing I've always found is that the enemies of peace and the enemies of justice, rarely do they bring out their artists. and their musicians and their poets, because you can't really sing about hatred. You know, you can't really perform about, holding, anger in your heart. And what musicians do, they turn anger. I think the Middle East peace movement, I call it an anger movement. There's so many people who are very angry, who are in leadership positions that really shouldn't be in leadership positions. But it has to be a love movement. And that doesn't mean, that you sing Kumbaya and hold hands all the time. I'm saying that when you want to, even if you're being critical of somebody, you have to do it with what the Buddhists call love speech. I'm very pro-Israel. I just don't agree with the policies of Netanyahu. And as an artist, I think this is the way a lot of artists are, we try to do everything with positive energy and love, but being honest about, if someone's doing the wrong thing, to make sure that you say that. But you got to do it in a way where people will listen. If you point your finger and hit people with a hammer and be negative, nobody will listen to you. It's got to be based on what Martin King and Gandhi did. It's got to be based on love, and I think that's what artists bring to any movement, is more love.
Absolutely. And we'll come back to this interesting discussion right after this commercial break. Stay tuned, please.
أمتي ترافل للسياحة والسفر بإدارة نبيل الباشا تعلن عن افتتاح مكتبها الواقع على 28695 راين رود في مدينة وورن. خدمات متميزة وخبرة تفوق 20 عاما نضعها في خدمة عملائنا الكرام. مع أمتي ترافل يمكنكم حجز رحلاتكم الجوية داخل أمريكا، الوطن العربي وأنحاء العالم، إضافة إلى الأماكن السياحية والاستجمام. للحصول على أفضل العروض وأنسب الأسعار ولمزيد من المعلومات اتصلوا على الرقم 586-578-9126 586-578-9126. أمتي ترافل، عنوان للصداقة والثقة. أسواق زمزم الواقع على 24065 أورشارد ليك في مدينة فارمington هيلز ترحب بالجالية العربية والكلدانية. تنزيلات كبيرة على عموم المواد الغذائية في يوم الأربعاء من كل أسبوع. لا تنسوا فريش كاري اوت، جميع انواع المعجنات، وايضا صواني الكمبو المشكله والصمون الحار. لحوم حلال الجاليه العربيه والاسلاميه، الملحمه باداره قصاب الجاليه المعروف سلوان جربوع. زوروهم على 24065 اورشارد ليك في مدينه فارمington هيلز او اتصلوا بهم على 248-476-0300. اسواق زمزم للمذاق عنوان لجميع طلباتكم، اتصلوا على 248-476-0300. اسواق زمزم للمعامله الراقية وكرم الضيافة عنوان.
This is Dr. Sahar Khamis. Join me on the third Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be discussing some of the most important current political, economic, and social issues in my program, The Bridge. On Radio Baladi, on America's Voice of the Arab, WNZK 690 AM and WZMV 700 AM.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is your host, Dr. Sahar Khamis, an associate professor in the Department of Communication at the University of Maryland, an expert on Arab and Muslim media. We are discussing today working and praying together for peace in the Middle East. And with me this morning discussing this important topic are Dr. Sherwood McGinnis and Mr. Jules Siegel. Before going to the commercial break, we were talking about the importance of the role of not just media, but also art and music. And I know of a very interesting group called Heartbeat Jerusalem, which brings together musicians from both Palestine and Israel to perform, a lot of artistic performances that try to attract young people and to also show the voices of love, reconciliation, and moderation on both sides of this conflict. Mr. Siegel, you mentioned earlier in the conversation that there is a profound misunderstanding of the Palestinian people among so many different groups, of course, among the Israeli society and among many others as well. Would you like to elaborate a little bit on what that really means and what could be done about it?
Yes. Well, I mean, I worship at a Orthodox temple. I'm what I call it neo-Orthodox. I abide by Jewish law. I've been studying the Torah for 26 years. My life is based on my studies of the Torah, but I also took a journey and I started studying Islam. Mm-hmm. And as I started studying Islam, I started seeing how closely aligned the Quran and the Torah were. And one of my rabbis, we were in a Torah study class, and he said the reason why there'll never be peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians is because in the Bible it says clearly that Israel belongs to the Jews. And it was about 50 people in the class, and I challenged him, and I said, under international law, land is owned in what's called the public trust, which means God owns the land, and we're basically, stewards of that land. But that really there's no legal claim to land. It's in the public trust, and he didn't quite know how to respond to that. And we were taught, and a lot of this comes from 48, comes from when there was a time period when the Arab community used military struggle. When I say the Arab community, I'll say Arab leaders, because there were a lot of Arab leaders who didn't believe in violence at all, especially within the Palestinian Authority or what was the PLO. That was always a debate, should you use violence or not. So the narrative among most Jewish people is that, and I'm being very honest here, but we have to be honest if we're going to heal and transform, is that the majority of Arabs and Palestinians want to wipe Israel off the map, that Islam is inherently a violent religion. Therefore, the only way for Israel to survive is through occupying the Palestinians and having checkpoints, by building walls. And my journey as a Jewish person into the Muslim world and into the Palestinian world and the Arab world was completely different. My journey was that the majority of Arabs and Palestinians are loving, intelligent, want peace. They just don't want that occupation of the Palestinian people. The Palestinians in Israel want their human rights. And so there needs to be public relations, sort of a charm offensive, I think, on the Arab side and the Muslim side, that was similar to what Sadat did, Anwar Sadat, where he bravely went to the Knesset and said, we want peace. And in my meetings, I work very closely with the Palestinian Authority, and I work closely with rabbis in Israel. And one rabbi said, peace leader said, Joel, if we can get Arab League, prime ministers and diplomats to go to Jerusalem and say we want peace, that could change everything. And I'll just conclude by saying that, not all Jewish people want to build. We don't believe in settlement building. Only 20% of Jewish people believe in settlement building. But Jewish people now are starting to change. They're becoming more aware. They have more Arab and Palestinian friends. Hip-hop music has changed everything. There's a huge movement in the Jewish community led by J Street, Jewish Voices for Peace, especially younger Jewish kids who do not believe in what their parents told them and or what some of the rabbis had said. They believe that peace is possible. They believe that if people have your basic fundamental needs, food, freedom, economic development, education, the right to, do a business, that people will do the right thing. And that's the big transformation that's happening in the Jewish community. It actually is splitting the Jewish community in half because we are vociferously opposed, many of us, to occupation and lack of freedom and human rights. At the same time, we would like to see the hardliners on the other side to recognize Israel's right to exist as a homeland for the Jews and come to the peace table and be more work more cooperatively with the moderate Arabs, such as the Jordanians and the Mahmoud Abbas.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And Dr. Sherwood, in just about 2 minutes, if you may please. I know that there are 5 important areas that the Holy Land Peace Fellowship Foundation is really based upon: education, health and sanitation, economy, rule of law and justice, and governance and transparency. If you can just, in a couple of minutes, because we are running out of time, unfortunately, wrap up what these 5 areas are all about.
Okay. As Joel Siegel said earlier, that what people want is a good life for themselves and their families. All of us, as human beings, want to ensure that those that are close to us have shelter, have a job, have education. And these 5 ideas or goals, principles, are extremely important for that. And justice and rule of law, that is really key to this idea of, well, who owns the land, who doesn't own the land. People need to feel that that is there. A growing economy to give jobs, education for all, the good governance and transparency, that you can turn to your government and they can provide for you. And it doesn't make any difference who you are, whether you're Arab, whether you're Jew, whether you're Christian or Muslim. There is justice, equal justice. These are the basis of a peaceful society. These are the basis of a stable society. And we want to instill these ideas and these values, and that's why they're very important.
Fantastic.
Amen.
Amen to that as well, for sure.
Amen.
And as we come to the end of our show this morning, I would like very much to thank everybody who's working and praying together collectively for peace in the Middle East. May God bless this part of the world, bless every part of the world that's trying to work together collectively for love, peace, and justice everywhere. Thank you so much, my distinguished guests, for being with me this morning, and also for all the hard work you're doing in this area of making peace in the Middle East. And I also would like to thank all. Thank you so much. Salam, shalom. And I'd like to thank everybody and all our listeners this morning. Thank you so much, everybody. God bless you, and goodbye.
Okay. Assalamu.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Peace, everybody.
أمتي ترافل للسياحة والسفر بإدارة نبيل الباشا تعلن عن افتتاح مكتبها الواقع على 28695 راين رود في مدينة وورن. خدمات متميزة وخبرة تفوق 20 عاما نضعها في خدمة عملائنا الكرام. مع أمتي ترافل يمكنكم حجز رحلاتكم الجوية داخل أمريكا، الوطن العربي وأنحاء العالم، إضافة إلى الأماكن السياحية والاستجمام. للحصول على أفضل العروض وأنسب الأسعار ولمزيد من المعلومات اتصلوا على الرقم 586-578-9126 586-578-9126. أمتي ترافل، عنوان للصداقة والثقة.